If you need any help with this 2.4 practice, then go ahead and follow along with this video. If you know how to do these, please just go and do them. But if you get stuck on one, you can come and scroll to the place where you need help. So we're going to start at problem number 1. So it tells us that blue pen. So a food company is using large coolers to store fresh food. The temperatures in the coolers are measured here. And we need to write these in order from coldest to warmest. So I'm going to think of this like a thermometer. And I do notice they're all already in decimals, so that is good news. So we're going to put 0 here. So let's get -1, -2, +1, and I think that's good. Okay, so -2.65, 2 and 65 tenths. So it's going to be past 2, right? If we're at -3 here, it's going to be a little past halfway. -2 and 65 tenths. That's pretty cold. So this one, even though it does not have this 0 here, it's like 0.1. So it's just barely past the 0. It's not a whole. It's barely colder than 0 degrees. So -0.1. -2.7. So before we had -2.65. Now we have -2.7. So if I'm just thinking 65. 65 is going to sound colder than 7. But this is actually 70. So this -2.7 is actually lower and closer to 3. It's 270, 2 and 70 hundredths, not just 2.7. We just don't need that, right? But 7 is bigger than 6, so we can see that there. Okay, now this one is warmer, 1 and 4/8, so up 1 and almost to the half, right? So if here's 2, it's about halfway, 1 and 48 hundredths. And then 0.09. So let's come back, and it's positive. Okay, so it's 0.90. That's pretty close to 1.9. So now we can write them from coldest up to the warmest. Okay, number 2, the daily changes in four-stop prices are shown in the table. Write the changes from smallest to biggest in fraction form. So they want them in fractions, and we need a common denominator. So normally I would choose, be like, I'm going to make these all decimals. But it wants them as fractions. So that's what we're going to do, because we're going to follow the directions. So fraction, yes, fraction, yes. So we can see this one goes to the hundredths place. So this one is negative. So -1 and 64 out of 100. So that's a fraction now, right? 64 hundredths. So see if you can write this one as a fraction. 2 and 5 hundredths. So 5 over what? So 2, there's 5 out of, this is in the hundredths place, so it's 5 out of 100. So now we need common denominators. So we have 100 here, 100 here, 100 here, but only 50 here. So we want to turn this into common denominators. So how do I get from 50 to 100? I'm going to multiply by 2, so times by 2. So whatever I do to the bottom, I do to the top. So I'm going to times by 2 and put that here. And then we're going to pay attention to our negatives and our positives to get them from smallest to biggest. Pay attention to your negatives, right? So I can see this is -2 and 3/35 hundredths. This one is positive and positive, so I know this one's going to be smaller than those. So see if you can get those 4 in order as fractions with common denominators. So they should all be out of 100 when you're done. Okay, number 3, air filters are rate based on the particle size that the filter will collect. Hospitals use air filters to remove dust and other particles from the air. The maximum particle sizes that a set of filters will collect in units called microns are 12 tenths, 1/100th, 38 hundredths, 5 tenths, and 7 hundredths. So I know like all of this was kind of confusing, right? Air filters, particle sizes. So what it really just wants us to write the particle sizes from smallest to biggest. It's not asking us decimals or fractions, so we can choose how we want to do it. So I don't see any that are negatives. They're all positives. And I'm going to turn them all into decimals to the hundredths place. So I know I have 12 tenths. First, I'm going to make it our mixed number. So that goes in there one time with 2 out of 10 left over, which equals 1. And 2 tenths, right? Looks like that. We can turn it into hundredths by adding that 0. This one we already have, right? 0.01. 38 hundredths. I'm lining up all my decimals so I can easily compare them. 5 tenths. Okay, so we have 5 tenths. I can easily write 5 tenths as a decimal. It's 0.5. That's the 10th place. And I can just add the 0 here, 50 hundredths. So anytime we have tens and hundreds, those are easy to turn into decimals. And then we have 7 hundredths. So find the smallest up to the biggest. All right, decimals make it super easy. Hey, number 4, Margot lists the sizes in inches of a set of screws. So we have all of these here. She reasons that because the denominators are in order from greatest to least, right? 64, 32, 16, 8, that this list must be in order from least to greatest. Is she correct? Why or why not? So if we think back to our task that we did, we compared 5/8 and 3/4 that those teachers had corrected of papers. They weren't the same. We couldn't put them on the same number line. So when we're comparing fractions, we have to have common denominators. So Margot is probably not right. I mean, there could be a chance that those are in the right order, but even if these are in the right order, she's not right. Why? She says because they're from the denominators in order, but we need to make the denominators be the same. So all of these numbers go into 64. So I could make them into 64ths, but they're not in order until I get them all to have common denominators. Okay, and let's take a look here. So I'm going to pick 2 of these to do with you. And I'm going to have you try a couple on your own. So I'm going to pick 5 and 7. So number 5, so this is already a decimal, decimal, decimal. So we're looking good so far. So 4.5. How do I write 4.5 as a decimal? It's negative 4.5. Half of 100, right, is 50. And then 4/3. So I need to change it in proper for our mixed number. So it's 1, goes in there one whole time, 1 left over out of 3. And now thirds. When you take 100 and you divide it into thirds, you get 33, 66. And they're going to go on forever. But 1/3, the decimal for that is 0.33. 1.33. Now, if we can't remember that, what we can do is I can take 4, the numerator, and I can divide it by 3. It's in there one time. You get 1 left over. Bring down that 0, goes in there 3 times, so it's just 9. 1 left over. We're going to bring down another 0, right? Can you see that this is going to go on forever, 1.333. So if you don't know the decimal off the top of your head, a fraction is just a division problem. Okay, so go ahead and get these from least to greatest. Pay attention to your negatives. So think, right? So let's take a look at the 4s. I can see on a number line, right? If here's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. About 4.22 and 4.5. 4.5 is going to be farther away than 4.2, so it's farther to the right. So I think this one is actually our smallest, the 4.5, or the 4, -4 and a half. It's actually our smallest one, and we go over. Okay, 6, I'm not going to do it with you. I'll think about it though. So I notice they're all fractions, and they all have common factors. They can all go into 18. So this one's good. We need to turn 1/9 into an 18. 1/9, we're turning it into 18. We're asking ourselves, how do we get from here to here? Do the same thing to the numerator. So you're going to do that for the thirds and the -3/9. Put them from least to greatest. Hey, number 7, we have a couple decimals, a couple fractions. So for decimal, decimal. Hey, there's a couple ways we can do this. 2 and 17/50. So 50, I know, nicely goes into 100. 2 times. So 17 times 2 is 34. So this is really 2.34, 2 and 34/100. And 25 is another nice number that goes into 100. So if I have 25, I'm thinking, how do I get to 100? They're quarters. Quarters. Every time we hear 25, we're thinking quarters. 25, 50, 75, 100 goes in there 4 times. So times by 4 will give us this number here. So -2 point what? Okay. And then put them in order from least to great. Or no, sorry. I'll read the directions. Greatest to least. So which one on a number line is farthest to the left, right? Farthest to the right. And then we're working backwards. I know it's not telling you to put them on a number line, but if that helps you, do it. Okay, and then we have 7/10. So I can think, right? 7/10, 0.35, -35/100. Ooh, this is like quarters. And then 63/100. This is like quarters we're changing. So see if you can put those from greatest to least.